And if you don't know her, what are you doing? You have to subscribe to Downwind of Truth with Kate Justice. She's extremely prolific. She bills herself in a very humble way, much like Ellie and others, as just an average concerned citizen who spends her free time asking the right questions and trying to dig up all the sordid truths about the Epstein class, not just Epstein, but the Epstein class. All these rich, corrupt, powerful people who always somehow escape accountability. But it seems like maybe, just maybe, the wind may be blowing in the favor of the people and for truth and transparency. Over the weekend, folks, Viktor Orban fell. His 16-year reign in the illiberal democracy of Hungary, his words, not mine. We also saw Eric Swalwell age worse than milk. In 2 days, he's gone. We'll talk a little bit about that. But there's another story that people are forgetting, and I know why, because Donald Trump right now, he has had his war with the Pope, Kate. I don't know if you saw, he did another
I did.
presser where he thinks like the Pope is Batman. He's really pissed off at the Pope for not fighting crime. And then he's lying to us. He says, oh, no, 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 that post that I deleted, I thought that was me as the Red Cross. Like, bro, come on.
Yeah, I just saw that. But it's so wild because, he could almost, I guess, get away with that if he didn't also pair it with a post that's directly about the Pope. Like he put the picture with a rant about the post or the Pope and then tells us he thought he was a doctor. And I'm like, that's
And also his yesterday's quote when asked about it, where he again slammed the Pope. And the fact that he's been after the Pope for a while, and it was reported that the Trump administration straight up threatened the Pope's representative. Yeah. But yeah, don't believe the evidence of your eyes and ears. Just believe Donald Trump. And, believe him and Melania when it comes to the Epstein files, because there's no cover up whatsoever.
especially when you come out of nowhere and nobody's asked you anything and we're completely focused on a war that shouldn't be happening. And you just come out to tell us that you have nothing to do with it. It's not suspicious.
Yeah, totally not suspicious. Completely unannounced 6-minute statement that Kate's referring to, where Melania Trump came out again during a failed war, where for the past 6 weeks, unfortunately, tragically, the attention has been diverted away from Epstein because they're wagging the dog in this unwinnable war. And Melania Trump, for those, because I know every day seems like 10 dog years, Kate.
It
This
does.
actually happened just last week. Melania Trump, the first lady, comes out and gives a 6-minute unannounced statement and then clicks her stiletto heels and walks away without answering any questions. And everyone's like, what the F was that? Kate,
Mm-hmm.
for those who have forgotten or might not be, up to date because I don't know of the 19 other raging fires, can you please remind us what Melania Trump said in her 6-minute statement?
From what I watched of it, it was a lot of nothing. She did a book plug randomly, but for the most part, it was just to remind us that everything is lies that we're hearing. And she was referring to one specific email that keeps coming up that she had sent to Ghislaine Maxwell, and she goes on to tell us how this simple. How did she word it? The simple reply was nothing more than, I think she was attempting to say the word trivial. So it was like a trivial thing, but she kept calling it a reply, which I thought was interesting
Mm,
because if you actually go look at the email, her email to Ghislaine Maxwell was like it was the initial email. It wasn't a reply.
yep.
Maxwell's response was the reply. So she initiated the email. So, I mean, she's telling us she had no relationship at all with Epstein, that they just happened to be in the same social circles. And it's like, fair enough. Maybe that was true. But you don't typically send cold emails to random acquaintances that you've only met occasionally here and there, signing off with "Love, Melania." And then her initial, Maxwell's response to Melania, she starts by calling her Sweet Pea.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's
I mean,
obviously
that's how I
some
invited you,
relationship.
Kate.
Yeah.
That's how I invited you. I said, "Hey, sweet pea," and then I
Yeah.
pointed off love, and then you
Yeah.
said, "Darling." I mean, that's
Yes.
yeah.
Because that's normal, cordial, when you're acquainted with someone, that's how you speak to people, right? I mean, it's just, what do they think we are? It's really, I mean, it's beyond insulting at this point because, I
Um,
mean, we've read the files, we've seen the pictures, we've heard the stories from multiple sources. So, I mean, there's clearly a relationship.
I mean, I just wanted to say I have the email. I was just looking for the email. This is the exact email. I'm reading exactly as we found in the Epstein files. It's dated October 23rd, 2002. Dear G! Exclamation point. How are you? Nice story about J.E. Jeffrey Epstein in New York Magazine. You look great on the picture. On the picture. I know you are very busy flying all over the world. How was Palm Beach? I can't wait to go down. Give me a call when you are back in NY. Have a great time. Love, Melania. They clearly do not know each other, Kate.
Yeah, no
Clearly, they
relationship.
only brushed shoulders at New York, parties and events. Clearly, these are people who are super strangers to each other, and that was a very informal email without any details.
Yeah, because I mean, that's just I couldn't like I'm very much, so my whole thing is analyzing, right? Like I try really hard to not get sucked into the narrative that I want it to be, right? Like I try to really remove myself. And even if they were really just because sometimes people in socialites speak to each, oh darling and blah, like they have this kind of lingo, if you will. It just, you would have had to have had interactions for that email to exist in that way, like, oh, call me when you get back. So clearly there was a conversation at some point about traveling because she had asked her to call her back. So it's just
And she
like,
knows where she is.
yes, and I mean, that's not something that an acquaintance would just know, right? And so it tells me that clearly she's lying, right? Like clearly she's lying. And not only is she lying, we weren't even asking her about it. Like we weren't even focused on her. There was nothing that at least not until there was a message on social media that had popped up that people are speculating about, but there was nothing that had happened that would make us even ask her this question. So for her to come out and just lie to us about it, it's like, well, the people keep saying the Streisand effect should be, I think maybe it was you, the Streisand effect should be renamed the Melania effect.
Yes. There should be a photo of Melania Trump right next to Streisand. And for those who don't know, the Streisand effect refers to a phenomenon in which you're trying to bury a story, and in your attempts to bury a story, you amplify the story.
Yeah.
And specifically, about 5 years ago, Barbara Streisand wanted to bury an aerial shot that was taken of her mansion. Before she intervened, only I think the number was nine. Nine people had downloaded this photo. And as a result of her intervention, then 50,000 people had downloaded the photo. So like it should be called the Melania effect because Kate's right. Not us, but for the world, we're distracted by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, rising gas prices, rising oil prices, Donald Trump becoming more unhinged, Kekseth and his cosplay crusading, right? The dismantling of the healthcare system, the rise of measles, right? And unfortunately, the Melania and the Epstein story kind of went by the sideline. But so she comes out, clicks her heels. To me, it was like I'm getting ahead of something. Something's about to come out, and I want you all to know I got nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And she also didn't mention Donald. She was like, Donald, peace out.
Really? Yeah, it really didn't. The only thing that she mentioned was just that he had a, casual, because I don't think she used the word relationship because she was trying to distance them, but she did acknowledge that he knew Epstein. But that was really the only thing she said. Every denial that she made was about her specifically
That's right.
not being involved or not knowing Epstein. The other thing that happened too was that I'm not sure how much, and I don't know much about this, but there was a book that dropped that came out about Prince Andrew, and it had mentioned Melania in it also the other day. So there was some speculation that maybe it had to do with what was in that book, which I believe was a quote from Jeffrey Epstein claiming that he had slept with Melania a full year before Trump met her.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if she was trying to respond to but it's like nobody was talking about this. So it was just such an oddly timed thing, especially for Trump to then go on and say he didn't know that she was going to do it.
And then we're trying to piece together, and we took some guesses, and it seems like it's coming true. But before I talk about the Michael Wolff of it all and the exploitation of this to keep promoting himself, we then saw tweets by Amanda Ungaro, and we're like, oh, interesting. these tweets that have since been removed are threatening Melania and saying, I knew your family. I knew your family for 2 decades. You knew I was in ICE detention. You didn't help me. And essentially, she was a woman scorned. So people are like,
Yep.
Amanda Ngaro. Why, that name sounds familiar. That name sounds familiar. Can you please connect Amanda Ngaro to Melania?
So that's what I was just trying to make sure I got the names correctly. There was a person named Paolo Zampoli,
Yep.
and he is connected to Epstein as likely one of his recruiters, very similar to Jean-Luc Brunel. And he, in one of the 302 statements, which is like an FBI witness statement, there is one of those that says that Paulo was the one that introduced Melania to Trump for the first time. So,
1998,
yes,
according to him.
yes. So this and this person is connected to Epstein. Now Amanda is she was a Brazilian model who was also Paulo's wife. I don't know if they were formally
Common law.
married.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they were formally married, but they had been together for a long time and shared at least one son that I have heard talked about. And from what I understand, fairly recently, he had her deported. Paulo had Amanda deported. Clearly, there was some issues between them and the child and all of this, and she ended up in an ICE facility. I don't know. That's what I had
Detention.
heard, and this is someone who knew Melania well, and so she had made some posts on social media just acknowledging that Melania had known this had happened to her and that she knows a lot about Melania and that she had kind of threatened to speak on what she knew. And I mean, from what we do know, Amanda was also on Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs when she was between 14 and 16 years old for the first time. So, I mean, you can kind of fill in the story a little bit there, what probably happened with her. And so that tweet, I think she had posted it on X, had come out. And so then people speculated this was Melania seeing that and trying to get ahead of that. So that's I just started like looking because I'd heard him when I found that original 302 statement. I had looked into it, but then I didn't get to go down that rabbit hole a little bit. So I started to just really look into that. And it's like, I cannot,
I'm
can't believe it.
I'm trying to unleash you. I'm unleashing Ellie and Kate down that rabbit hole because they're better at this. But let me. Thank you for that. Let me fill in some dots also. So Paolo Zampoli, folks, as of right now, is part of the Trump administration. He's has a special envoy position, and Paolo, as Kate was saying, was an agent. But interestingly enough, his agency really didn't seem to do anything publicly, but his agency seemed to get a stream of Eastern European girls into America, where, again, you would think an agency would connect them to, I don't know, Revlon or magazines or be more public. Oh, no, no, no. But somehow he got this. He was an agent of all these models, these young Eastern European girls who came to America. And then these models, some of them ended up in parties with these rich, powerful men like Donald Trump and Epstein. According to Paolo, and this is where I want people to really like, this is why Melania is kind of stuck. Paolo has jumped up and down and said, it was me. I'm the one who introduced Melania to Trump. Me. I'll even go and testify to this case, which is interesting because Epstein claims that he was the one who introduced Trump to Melania. And he further bragged that he got to taste Melania a year before Donald Trump, meaning he had sex with her. And then, according to Michael Wolff, and this is where Michael Wolff comes in, we'll talk about it in a second, he has told me twice and openly said that Jeffrey Epstein told him in the hundreds of hours of interviews that he has with Jeffrey Epstein that he should have released by now, that Epstein said that the first time Donald and Melania had sex was on his plane Lolita Express. Now, Melania says that she met Donald Trump by chance at a party in 1998. So who's telling the truth? Is it Epstein? Is it Melania? Is it Paolo? Also, why is Paolo, an Italian American modeling agent, introducing Melania in the first place to Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, who was married at the time to Marla Maples, 1998, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Also, how did Melania connect with Paolo? He said he saw her, I think, in Italy and then brought her here. We still don't know, folks, if she came here legally, but then we know she applies for a green card. And then we know after hooking up with Donald Trump, she gets fast tracked to the Einstein visa. Then she becomes a citizen and her family becomes citizens, right? So Amanda looks like one of these girls
Yes.
that was part of the Melania, also a girl that was brought here by these shady ass men, and I'll just say it, who were essentially, it seems like, trafficking these girls
Yes.
to powerful men. If that is true, then that means Paolo saw Melania and, like so many of these other girls, brought her to America to traffic to powerful men. Melania rarely talks about it. We
Yep.
have this big vague fog of when did she come here? How did she come here? How does she know Paolo? Who introduced her to Epstein and Trump? And clearly, as Kate said, for those who are joining us a bit late, all the evidence shows that she knew J.E., Jeffrey Epstein, her initials for him, and Ghislaine a lot more than she's letting on. The
Yes.
one person who can kind of connect all these players is Amanda.
Yes, she should be able to, based on what we know. And to your point about everything kind of pointing to Melania being one of those women who was trafficked, essentially. I mean, it kind of would explain those photos, right? Like we have all these nude photos of Melania that it's like that was very much what these girls were meant they did, right? So from the emails that I've gone through looking at all of this, it looks like the girls were used for a couple of different things, that he would have them traffic them to, probably various countries, but definitely the United States for obviously pleasure that for the powerful men, but also to spy. So that was the other thing. I think there was a component of this. The women that met whatever criteria he had would also be spies, because there's a couple of emails that I've found where he specifically refers to them as spies. And then he is asking these women, as he's coaching them on some pretty nasty stuff I won't discuss, but he's coaching them on how to do these things for these men and also how to get this information out of them and asking them about, gathering information. So these girls were sent out on dates, if you will, with these men that Epstein or his, peers needed information from. And these women would entertain and however they needed to and get this information back to Epstein. And in exchange, he often would be paying for their school or paying for their
Wow.
apartments or whatever things that he needed. And I mean, there's some really disgusting ones that I've actually sent to a couple of the survivors who are working on cases against just, the government and things for the negligence that they've experienced, because it's like, how is this not proof that this is happening? Like, this is very clear proof that this is what's going on. So I'm not sure how logically Melania would be anything but, I don't even want to use the term victim at this point because she's not anymore. Maybe once upon a time, but at this point, it's very complicit in what she's doing. And I don't see how she wouldn't be part of that, given the people involved and what we know of them.
Yeah, a honeypot, right?
Yes.
Either
That's the other component of it, is just using them as the honeypot, and they're gathering, the video evidence or whatever it is. Maybe they're underage, maybe they're married men and they're, whatever the circumstances are. And then the ones that met certain criteria would be almost leveled up, if you will. And those were more information gathering versus just compromise.
And also, folks, the fact is that Melania, she came out and said, "I am not a victim," and I was like, she is saying, like, this was a lot of projection.
Yes.
Like, you're coming out and saying things that no one's asked you anything
At all.
and at all, and this was she seems to, again, we don't know, it's speculation. We got to put two and two together. Amanda Ungaro, who is this, and look at Amanda's story, just for those who, I know it's a lot we're giving you. Amanda came, as Kate said, on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane as a teenager to America. Paolo Zampoli was infatuated with her, but he says that he didn't begin a relationship with her until she was like 18 or 19. He was a pig. He went around with all these women. They followed the kid together. She finally left, and they got into this contentious child custody battle. And then he leans in to the Trump administration and asks a favor and gets ICE to deport the mother of the
Yes.
child during this contentious child custody battle. Just think about this, folks, how cruel these people are. They did it openly. The New York Times did a piece on it. I talked about it on the left hook, but since there's like 32 fires, it like quickly, I'm like, what
Yeah.
the F? This is huge. Paolo Zampoli, who's connected
Yeah.
to Melania, literally leans on ICE, gets Amanda Ungaro, I didn't know her name at the time, but gets the mother of his child deported openly. She was in ICE detention for 2 to 3 months. And now she's literally in Brazil, separated from her kid. So she gives zero Fs. She gave an interview with El País over the weekend, which wasn't really that, like, it was like an appetizer. So we're
Yeah.
waiting for some big bombshells that didn't come out. But she's also speaking to CNN. And I think she's using this ploy, Kate, because these people are all transactional. She's like, I will spill unless you reconnect me to my child.
Yes.
Melania seems to get on top of it. And then Michael Wolff, as predicted in Daily Beast, have been teasing out the stuff that we've known for a while.
That he should have just released. Like, I have no tolerance for him at all. Every time
Zero.
I see his face, and I have since this came out, only because when I learned that he has all these interviews that he's just sitting on because it's beneficial to his pockets, I'm like, I get earning money. I totally understand, when you put in work, you earn money. This is not that. This is not that at all. This is a very different situation. And then what we've learned about him just in the emails, like if you've been
Oh.
following what Ellie's been uncovering, it's like, I can't. Hold on, my internet's being
No,
weird.
he's complicit. I mean, he
Yeah.
was conciliary to Epstein, friend, ally. And, I talked to Michael twice, and both time I had him on. In fact, he did his first stream with me, his first Substack live. I asked him both times, why don't you just release it? He's like, I've tried.
Yep.
I've tried, and no one wants to publish it. I'm like, word? I'll get Ellie and Zev, and like, I'll hire an intern, and we'll go through it, and we'll publish it for free.
Yep.
So he's been sitting on this, and he's been teasing that he has all this incriminating information where Epstein told him that the first time Melania and Trump had sex was on Lolita Express. And now there's a suit where he wants Melania to answer questions about exactly when did she come here? How did she come here? Right. These are all, folks. I just want you to sit with this. The fact that we're talking about the first lady. Basically, what we're
Right,
seeing.
like, this is the first this is not just some, Hollywood topic that we're just this is the people running our country, and this is very, very disturbing. I agree. I actually and I don't know, just to say this ahead of time, I don't know that this email is from Amanda, but there is an email that I found, over the weekend when I started digging into this, and it seems to be from a woman who is distraught and concerned about her son, very specifically, and I forgot what it was exactly in there that made me believe that I think it was specifically talking about Paulo and things like I'll have to send it to you after I'll find
Oh,
it.
please.
But it made me think that it was her. And so to your point about her speaking, but maybe she hasn't really dropped the bombs, I truly believe that they are probably using her child against her. And I agree with you that she's probably doing this like I'm going to speak if you don't reunite me, but also I feel like they probably have a lot more leverage than she does, and so I feel like she's probably going to do whatever she needs to protect her child, and hopefully she can use the information she has to reconnect with her child, and we can find out what the hell is going on eventually anyway.
All these people are snakes. It's like Glenn Maxwell. Glenn
Yeah.
Maxwell sitting there teasing stuff out, and because her ass ain't gonna be in jail forever.
No,
The
she's
only
getting a pardon.
Yeah, the only reason why, folks, another example of the cover up. Why is she in a minimum security camp in Texas? No one has explained it. We don't have to do the explanation.
Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche got her to say, I never saw Trump do anything. And once she said that, magically she transfers to this facility
Within a week.
within a week.
And then how did the Wall Street Journal and corporate news get their hands on the 50th birthday book she compiled for Epstein? How? I wonder. Oh,
Mhm.
probably Ghislaine Maxwell. And so I always tell people, kid, I'm with you. Twice, Donald Trump has been asked publicly about pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. He hasn't said no. And the fact that he hasn't said no to me
Says
is
everything.
She
No,
ain't gonna stay 20 years in jail. F
no,
that.
that book,
Everyone else is getting pardoned. You think her ass is gonna spend 20
yeah.
years in jail? Hell no.
And that book was put together. So I've done a lot of research on just intelligence in general and the intelligence community and the things that they do. And I mean, it's not for sure that that's what this is, but typically things like that birthday book are put together with a group of people to remind all of them what they all know about each other. So if
Mm.
one goes down, the rest go down. So they put this almost together just so it's this tangible piece of evidence, if you will, that kind of is that thread that connects them all. If one goes down, we all go down. Here's just a reminder I have all of this information on you. What a reminder to Epstein, right? To have literally his whole childhood, everything. Here's everything we know about you if you ever step out of line. And that's what I think that book is. And I think at this point, I'm not sure if she was the one who led them to it, just to say, here you push me, and I have
I've
a
got
lot
more.
more. Yeah,
Yeah, because she apparently compiled a book like that every year.
I'm sure.
It
I'm
wasn't just for
sure.
his 50th birthday. And this is how it works, folks, because I think, Kate made a really interesting point is it reminds me of a Ponzi scheme using sex,
Yes.
where he traps you. Epstein sends his girls. The girls give them these men sexual pleasures. Oftentimes they're girls, so that means it's rape. The girls then come back, and Epstein says, "Listen, you know that girl you had sex with? I'm sorry, she lied to me, but I found out she's only 16. That means we got you on the hook. And guess what? She also videotaped it. But don't worry, she trusts me. I've bought her out, and I'll keep your secret a safe. That being said, you owe me now."
Yep.
And this explains why man after man after man, Andrew Mandelson, the dude in France right now after the investigation in the Rothschild, they're all giving Jeffrey Epstein confidential information, sensitive information, right?
Yep.
There's an entire ecosystem at play here, but what did he need as the bait? The women. And let's be blunt about it. What we're speculating bluntly is that Melania Trump, the first lady, was deliberately used as bait, brought to this country in this sex trafficking and rape operation in which Paolo Zampoli, John-Luc Brunel, Epstein, and others were complicit, where they got these vulnerable Eastern European women
Mm-hmm.
and then had sex with them, trafficked them, and or connected them as honeypots to powerful men. And that Epstein used that in part to create this empire where he had blackmail information, which is why all these dudes are part of the big club and giving this guy hundreds of millions of dollars, which is totally normal, right, Kate?
Yeah, and this is also a continuation. This is all seemed to be something that uh the CIA and everything had been doing previously, and I really think Epstein took over a lot of this. Um I was going to add to your point. You mentioned something and then I can't remember what it was. But it was related to, oh, that's what it was. The fact that they used a lot of the Eastern European women, it's there's, I can't remember the term for it, but there is a group of these countries where you can just have one passport too, and you can use it for all of them. You don't have to have a passport. I can't remember what the term was, but it's a group of specific countries. And I had found some text message to, yes, BCCI. It's that bank also that's a whole thing. But yes, they did the trafficking. They would traffic for their clients. But the passport, there was a text message that I found, and it was specifically referencing, I can't remember the name. There's a name or a term for this group of countries that you can use a passport for. But basically, the
Is
point I'm
people
making,
saying the Shenzhen visa, the type
maybe I'm not sure exactly, but
it allows travelers to visit or transit through 29 European countries for up to 90 days within a 180-day period. It covers most of EU states, plus Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland.
so that might not be it. This might be something different that was specific to the I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. But it was basically, the point I'm making is that those specific countries that these women often came from, they could more easily traffic them because they didn't need to go through the passport process for each one of their individual countries. They could move them between them all much more easily. And so I think that was kind of one of the incentives for that region in general. I'll have to look it up and find it, but I
No
just
problem.
thought it was really interesting, especially because I had found that text message that specifically was talking about how this particular woman had this status so they could use that particular passport to travel around. Like, it was almost like someone was reporting back on these girls that they found to Epstein, and there was like these criteria, and this was one of the things that they noted about this particular girl.
And also, there's a lot of ties to Russia, right, Kate?
Yes, yes, like most all of them, it's like the Russian bloc, like the I can't think of the term. My brain's melting at this point. But yes, that's exactly what it is. It's all the like Russian oriented countries. I can't think of the term, but um they specifically would target them. And someone had mentioned BCCI, which I had written about in one of my last pieces that I did. And that what I learned about that, I think it was BCCI, they were targeting girls, I think it was in Iraq, or one specific country. They would target them and get them and traffic them from this one place for their clients. It's disgusting that what I've learned
Yeah,
about all of this.
yeah, most of these, like, yeah, the Soviet bloc, as people are saying, the Eastern European countries, a lot of these countries that where a lot of the people, especially the women,
Yes, I
uh,
think it is that visa, the Shenzhen one
yeah,
that they're talking about. I
yeah.
think that might be what it is. Yeah, I think
And
that is it.
so it's these countries where women in particular are vulnerable, and this is their ticket to America, a ticket for their
Yes.
family. I want to remind you all that Melania Trump somehow got the E visa. For those who don't know what the E visa is, it's known as the Einstein visa, a special visa given to those immigrants with extraordinary talents and abilities and contributions to the United States of America. Last time I checked, she posed naked for magazines and partied with rich people. I guess that's what gets you the E visa. But as a result of getting the E visa, it fast tracks you. And then she becomes a citizen. And then her family becomes citizens. And then she doesn't talk to Donald Trump or touch him. They live on separate floors. In fact, they live in separate states right now. So it seems to be a very transactional relationship where after hooking up with Donald Trump, she gets a green card and then an E visa. Interesting. And then she gets on her way to becoming a citizen. She gets barren, and her parents become citizens. And another person, Amanda Ungaro, comes here as a teenager on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane, where Paolo Zampoli becomes infatuated with her. They have a kid. He sleeps around on her. She leaves, but she doesn't become a citizen. Melania becomes a citizen. And as such, Paolo, who is still the special envoy for global partnerships, that means he has a role in the Trump administration
He was just with JD Vance, right? I think I
in
saw a
in
picture of
Hungary.
him. Yeah,
In
just
Hungary.
like, yeah, he's with him right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so literally, folks, last week, while JD Vance was trying to get Orban over the hill, he lost. Paolo was right there in the photo. You're like, is that Paolo Zampoli? And you're like,
Sure
oh my
is.
God. And so Paolo is part of the Trump administration. This guy who was an agent, the guy who says that he's the one who spotted Melania, the guy who introduced Melania to Jeffrey Epstein, is literally right there with JD Vance in Hungary, where they failed, thankfully. Still,
Mhm.
special envoy to global partnerships leans in on ICE to get the mother of his child deported, who's also, let's be honest, seems like a fellow uh, model, like Melania, who had her same origin story the same way as Melania does, which is probably why Melania's freaked the F out. Because if
Yes.
anyone can tie the details to her origin story, it's most likely Amanda Ungaro.
Mhm. Yes. I mean, that would make the most sense. And like I said, I started digging a little bit over the weekend. I'm going to try a little bit more to see if I can find anything else about them in particular that adds to this, because clearly, we have the Streisand effect, the Melania effect at this point, and now it's like things I probably would have never looked up. I am. I'm definitely going to now.
And okay, so here we have all these connections, and let's just talk crap about Michael Wolff real quick, because Michael Wolff can come out right now and help us, because if he's correct, and in what he's saying is true, and he wouldn't say this, I think, if because he said this multiple times. And he's released some audio when he wants to. One of the audios that he's released is Jeffrey Epstein saying he was Donald Trump's closest friend for 10 years. But suppose Michael has this audio where Epstein says that the first time Donald and Melania had sex was on Lolita Express, and he releases that audio. What does that say about this story? What does that reveal, Kate?
I'm not even sure because with Michael Wolff at this point, I feel like if he was to release something, I would really question if Melania knew about it at this point. And that's so weird because I know there's this like lawsuit between them and there's all this stuff, but I just don't trust him. I don't trust him. And I can't. I just feel like if he had these audios, they should be out. We should be listening. That somebody should have them, even if he didn't publicly give them to all of us. Why does all of the investigators not have this? And I don't know. I don't trust him. There's something about the timing of the things that he does and says that is too strategic, especially after I've read the emails between him and Epstein. I think before I read all of those emails, it might not have been anything out of the ordinary, but after reading those ones, like they're very strategic, PR focused emails. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
And it's almost like Ellie's gone through me. She sent me the batch, and you got the batch as well. He's more than just a journalist. Can you explain his role with Epstein?
So Ellie can definitely do it better than I can, but from what I've learned from Ellie and then my own like reading through it, he was a journalist, but Epstein seemed to have a couple of journalists like on his Rolodex who planted stories for him, and they would almost work with him to come up with these stories or finalize these stories and the details, and it was always to benefit him or somebody in his network. And they talk about it, like Michael Wolff. I don't, off the top of my head, I can't think of like something that is specific about that, but that was what he was doing. Like his Epstein would feed him information because he's writing his books and all these things, and Epstein would give him information, and then Michael Wolff would feed him information like, oh, and this one said this and this one did that and this happened, and then it was so coordinated. And I mean, this was well after he was convicted as a sex offender, so it's not like he didn't know who the guy was. I mean, I just can't trust somebody who would sit on that stuff.
Yeah, and as I'm glad someone brought this up. Elizabeth says this in this. Michael was very much against Me Too. You know what? Who also was against Me Too? Epstein. You know who else was
Rapists.
against Me Too? All of the Epstein class, including the
Yes.
billionaires,
Yep.
because Me Too was a brief moment of accountability. That's what shook them. Me Too
Yep.
and Harvey Weinstein shook them to the core, and they said, if it's a choice between accountability and burning down everything, Kate, they said, let's burn down
They
everything.
sure did. They sure did. They really, and they talk specifically about Me Too, and they talk about how to stop it and end it and distract from it. And I had even written a piece about Epstein, and he was coordinating with somebody on how to essentially like hack the wiki page and make sure that certain information shows up way down and these results and things. So it's like they were trying very hard to make you forget who he was. And Michael Wolff, as far as I can tell, was, if not very much a part of it, very much aware of it.
And lamentably, I was his first Substack live chat, and I kind of helped him get on. And this was before the latest drop. And now his Substack is thriving, and I'm like, I want to apologize to the universe for teaching him how to use Substack.
We didn't know. We didn't know. We didn't have that batch of Epstein
No,
files,
we
I
didn't.
don't think. We
We
didn't
did not.
know that he was as involved as he was. We thought it was a lot more, hey, he was approached to write a book and he had some information, and we had no idea it was as involved. So it's,
I
we
knew it
don't
was
blame
slick.
you.
I knew it was slick and shady, sure. But I'm like, all right, if he has the goods and it could bring down this administration, the Epstein circle, great. Both times I asked him, you have the hours and hours of footage, the audio. release it. And he made some lame ass excuse, which it
Yeah.
didn't work then. It doesn't work now. But all the worst people are profiting off this. I do want to ask you about two other names of terrible people before you go, Kate.
Yeah.
The Lutnick of it all. Howard Lutnick, our Secretary of Commerce, is still in the Trump administration. Why does that concern you, especially when it comes to his relationship with Epstein? Can you please provide?
So I just did a little digging on him. And from just to be kind of brief about it, but from what I could figure out, he had an he had invested in a business with Epstein, but also I found some emails that seemed to show. So Howard Lutnick was the head of a company called Cantor Fitzgerald, I think it was, and that was one of a few companies that is involved in, like the Federal Reserve and being able to purchase from them. And again, I'm a layman. Like, I don't fully understand what it is he did, but there was a very small amount of companies that can do what his company did. And so he ran this for a long time, like 30 years or something. And there's an email where the head of that company, like legal, is coordinating some business deal with, from what I can tell based on what this other company's name is and everything, it's Prince Andrew.
Mm,
And so it looks like this person from Howard Lutnick's company is coordinating some deal with Prince Andrew's company that he's trying to form. And then Howard Lutnick's lawyer for his company is forwarding all of this to Epstein. And Epstein's giving them feedback like, no, at one point he says, Howard's entire business is in like casinos in Vegas. Like he'll have to disclose something. You can't do it this way. Like you'll have hell to pay. So like Epstein's the one ultimately going, let's rework all of these deals and do this so we're not triggering all of this compliance stuff. And the gist of it is, what it looks like is that, because we know that there's emails from former Prince Andrew who would forward information to Epstein pretty much immediately as it was coming to him. And when he would get this information, it looked like, so what I was saying is it looked like that information is kind of part of the deal. So Epstein would get this information. Well, not Epstein, I'm sorry. Howard Lutnick's company would get this information and access to connections and sovereign wealth funds in exchange for a cut, essentially. And so, not that that business was illegal, but I can guarantee you the information that was probably coming through was not stuff that was supposed to be shared. And it looks like they never ended up forming a company together. It looks like it ended up being some kind of agreement, like a networking consulting agreement where he would get a cut that way, but that was clearly to avoid a lot of regulation things that Epstein was pointing out. And so Lutnick is, who knows what is still going on, because he was literally running that company until he joined the Trump administration.
and
So
and he lied, right? And he lied about how his connections, and he was still friendly.
many times, yeah, because clearly there's no way he didn't know this guy. Like he had a they formed a business together at one point. Like there was a company that was formed together. And I mean, granted, I understand in that world, when you have that much money, I'm sure you probably put money into things and you don't always meet people. There's just no way that he did not know more than he's like letting on to. But there's just so much there that's so sketchy. There's no way that he should be in the position that he's in. And it just, I think it's just an average citizen, somebody who's stepped into this. It's like, are you joking me right now? Like the things I've discovered, I'm like, how are the adults running our country? How did we get here? Like what we have literally been told since childhood, like, oh, you have to believe in your government and trust people and use your voice. And it's like, these people screwed us.
And it's so corrupt, so much self-dealing. As someone said, isn't he connected to Tether? Tether is the world's largest stablecoin. Yes, he's a major booster and financial partner of Tether. And
Mhm.
this administration was the first administration to pass the Genius Act, right? The first pro-crypto legislation. And this administration is also protecting AI firms. And, it's all a big club, folks. They're all benefiting off this. And Lutnick also said he vouches for Tether and its assets, and he's worked against regulation. I mean, literally beyond corruption, self dealing,
Beyond. Yeah.
all making money, all lying about their significant ties to Epstein. He lied
Mhm.
about going to the island. He lied about cutting off relations, still doing business with him after he was a pedophile. And he's still our Secretary of Commerce. It is so rigged. The whole system is cooked as the rich are getting richer and everyone's getting poorer. These guys are doing all this with accountability, without an accountability. And again, Melania Trump. Like, I want some basic questions answered. Like, how did you meet Donald? Why do you know Paulo? How did you come here?
Right,
Like,
like, give us some actual answers because we have different versions of these, answers all over the internet, and we definitely need her to have some account. She seems like she's ready to talk, so, sit her down and ask her the questions. I mean, she came out of nowhere with this, so why don't we take
who's
her up
her?
on it,
She never speaks. This is Melania Trump, who rarely speaks, only
Right, never.
promote herself in her stupid documentary. She came out of nowhere, folks. Nobody was asking. And
Nope.
she's like, let me tell you, not a victim, don't know Jeffrey Epstein, don't know Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump, who's he? Anyway, peace out, bye. We're like,
Yeah.
what? That's
Yeah, like, what just happened? Like, what is she talking about? And then we all had to go look and try to figure out what she was talking about, which is like the opposite of what she wanted us to do. So, now we have even more stuff that we've learned. So, good job, Melania, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Melania, for bringing the focus back on the Epstein files. Real quick before I let you go, Kate, your response to Swalwell. And well, I want to ask you this: the fact that I talked to Danielle about this, my co-host, and I edited a post on this. Now we're listening to all these Democratic insiders and all these folks saying, "Well, everybody knew," and I'm like, number one, I didn't know, and
Right.
number two, the fact that everybody allegedly knew, that just shows me this. This is how the Epstein class gets away with it. This is how Weinstein got away with it. This is how Diddy got away with it. And I'm saying, bro, if everyone knew, then I'm glad for the Democrats who rescinded their support for him compared to Republicans. Yes. But if everyone knew, this explain how this works? I
Mhm.
scratch your back, you scratch my back. I F around with girls, you F around with girls. I protect you, you protect me. Ha ha ha. Let's just make sure no one talks about it.
Yeah. No, I had actually started following this because there was a woman on that I follow on Threads, and she goes by Miss Frazzled, and she had actually started talking about this a couple weeks ago because she had, I think it was like and she just did a really good interview with Sammy Sage on here on Substack, I think it is, so you can watch it and she explains it better. But I think it really came down to her. He was working with influencers for the campaign to try to reach out to some influencers, and she said, she had a great meeting and was kind of excited to be there, but then someone had messaged her to warn her not to give him her phone number. Like, he'll be texting you in the middle of the night, and she just started hearing all these things, and she's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And they're like, to your point, they're like, oh, well, it's kind of like everyone knows that this is what goes on with him. And she's like, well, what do you mean this is what goes on? Like, what are you talking about? So then she had made some posts about, is there anybody else who has had experience like this with him? And so apparently she found them. And then it's just kind of started to blow up. And it was really shocking for me, um, not everyone, because you expect it with some people, but there was quite a few people who have been very like, believe the women with all the Epstein stuff. But then this comes out and it's not beneficial to them because this is a candidate that they had supported. And now they all want proof. And I'm like, okay, but what happened? Are you like, I understand, like, from both sides of something, you don't want to just go assume the man's guilty, right? Because somebody said something, you don't just assume he's guilty. However, this is not a normal situation. This person is running for the governor of California. It was not, that's what he was running for, right? That was his
Yeah, yeah.
campaign. Yeah. And so,
Still in the house.
yeah, he's still in the house. He has not been removed at this point. And it's not just one person. it wasn't just one person. There was multiple people, and he is in a position of power, and he's being accused by people who are his subordinates. So for me, that's the part where I just, regardless of proof, regardless of anything else, just as somebody who, elects officials, and we vote and we expect certain standards of these people, for multiple people to accuse someone in that position says a lot to me. And I fully expect that they would step away from a campaign and figure this out and address this. And I mean, if they're in position like Congress, it's like that also, I know it's not as easy to just like remove someone and be done with it, but it's like, again, this is a unique position. Like it's not just some allegation that came out. This is multiple
So,
people who work with him and are vulnerable people, and it's their responsibility, in these jobs to keep their employees safe. And if these women are not safe, there's just a lot of layers to it. So I was surprised by the people who were like, well, we need proof. It's like, yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, to really accuse the guy, you need proof if you're going to put him in jail. But on a moral level, on a what you can see and hear with your own eyes from everything that I've seen and heard, guy's not a great guy. He's not someone that I would want making decisions for me. And I certainly hope that there's accountability, because it seems like there's quite a few victims.
Uh, you know what the proof is that he suspended his campaign.
Mm-hmm.
There was no there, he'd still be running for governor. Uh,
Yes.
and the fact that Democrats, all 21 of them, I think 21 to 24, who endorsed him within
Yeah,
2
all of
days,
them.
yeah, all of them. Kate, thank you so much for your time. This was great. For the 2,300 people watching, I'm speaking to Kate Justice. You know your lover. Please shamelessly promote yourself, Kate.
I'm not so good at this, but you can find me here mostly on Substack and Threads at, Kate Justice, Downwind of Truth. I focus primarily on taking all of the really complicated stuff in the Epstein files, the Epstein class, and trying to not only decode it, but decode it in a way where I can invite everybody to the conversation. Because I feel like the more people who feel like empowered to ask questions about it, the better off we're going to be is in the accountability department.
And, and,
So,
and more people were informed. That's how we do it, folks.
yes,
How you
exactly.
a record amount of people coming out in Hungary, the largest numbers
It
since
was amazing to see. It was
all of
amazing to
communism,
see.
and none of these people are inevitable. Swalwell's not inevitable. Newsom's not inevitable. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. They're all the same people. I'm saying all these people who thought like, I will just waltz my way to victory. As you can clearly see, nothing is inevitable.
Hmm.
Orban's not inevitable. Netanyahu's not inevitable. Putin's not inevitable. Trump isn't inevitable. Nothing. And all these are just people. Swalwell was not inevitable, right? So, it's the people who are organized, who come out, and who demand change, folks.
Yes.
I feel like there's an energy I have here in 2007 energy. There's a 2025 energy where Cuomo was inevitable, but Mamdani says, wait a second. But Clinton was inevitable. Then Obama's like, wait a second.
Hmm.
I think people are sick and tired, Kate, and they want accountability and they want justice. That will bring a lot of people together.
I
Uh,
agree.
and Kate, guys, everyone who subscribes to the Left Hook, go subscribe to Kate. This
Thank
is the
you.
Left Hook. Everything is free. There's no paywalls. If you want to become a paid subscriber, it's at lefthook.substack.com/special. It's 25% off, $3.75 a month forever. You can pay for 75% of 1 gallon of one for my Honda Odyssey minivan. It will go a long way. 75% of 1 gallon. I'll take it shamelessly. But if not, it's all free. We want to keep people informed and educated. And we want you all to connect the dots and so you know what's happening in this country. Remember, these people serve you. They work
Yes.
for you. So be informed, be kind, and please, oh, please don't be a fascist. Thank you so much, Kate, for spending the time.
Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone. I'll
Bye.
be back at 3 o'clock.